Welcome back to Tribal Council Chat, the flagship show of the Reality Realm Podcast Network. As always, we are your hosts. My name is Bruce Heller.
And my name's Brett Parnell.
And so let's dive in. So, episode 10 of Survivor 48. What are your overall thoughts on the episode this week?
Um, Overall thoughts on this week's episode was definitely one that was a little all over the place. Was a bit surprising to see how it all went down. What about you?
Yeah, it was interesting to me. The whole the team that was like planning the revolution and their plan was Joe, and they kind of
Yeah,
just disband after Joe wins immunity. I'm thankful they didn't just move on to Eva as their next target, but I really don't know why.
I wonder if they might assume that she's just loaded on advantages.
But she's pretty comfortable. I don't think she would have thought to play her idol that round.
Interesting.
Like, because she seems fully comfortable. She's in the majority. I
Yeah.
don't. If they had put votes on her, I don't think she would have known to play her idol.
Well, they might learn to regret that, and they might not.
My other note is I like Mitch, but Mitch keeps saying he doesn't want to play a scared game, and then he continues to do that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you here. I think Mitch is trying to play the game, but at this point, and you can't blame him based on the position that he's in. He was number one with Cody, who rubbed people the wrong way and went home, and he's been playing really by himself ever since. But therefore, I think Mitch is in a position where he just doesn't want to do anything that might not go over well, and therefore is playing a little too weak of a game because he's just completely on his own.
Yeah, and so and I get it. Like he says he doesn't feel comfortable making that move or making that jump because he doesn't trust Star and Mary. Like I get it, but at the same time, like look at what's best for your game.
Yeah, and if you're not in the alliance with Joe and Eva, then who cares if you don't trust Star or Mary? Vote with them or you're going to be next.
Yeah. So
Because if you're just sitting in between two alliances, eventually you'll just end up making an exit like Sarah did in Kagiyan.
yeah. I think Mary's next probably because they were deciding between Mary and Star this week, and Star went. So I think Mary's most likely to go next. But I
Yeah,
like Mitch a lot. He's a fun guy. It's just he's playing a scared game. He doesn't want this week. He had an opportunity to take that move and make that jump. And I get that he didn't trust the people he would have been making that jump with, but at this point, what option do you have?
exactly.
Unless he's counting with being the fifth the person to Eva, Joe, Kyle, Shaheen, and then just going on an immunity run to get him to the end. But
And if he does that, though, he has no way of getting any votes to win.
I mean, unless he's next to Joe and Eva, who I like, I feel like the jury might not like the majority alliance enough to where someone like Mitch could get votes.
I think that might have happened in like 10, 15 seasons ago, but at this point, I'm pretty sure either Joe or Eva would just sweep it, Mitch would get zero, and the other person who doesn't sweep it would get one. Because that's what happens in New Era Survivor.
Other than 45
Yeah,
and
other than
46.
45. And I mean, still, how did that happen in 45? It was the one season that should be blatantly obvious.
46 was super close too, and that one was even spicier because you
Yeah,
had someone that was one of the finalists' top allies the entire game. voted for the other person, and it ended up being a one vote difference.
Yeah. You also had a bit of a controversial immunity challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's
That,
just Probst's whole thing of like the rules change season to season.
exactly.
So it was allowed that season, I guess.
I guess.
But she came on our show and was awesome. So
Yes, she
shout
was.
out to Liz.
Not
But
criticizing Listen though, just saying that um, it would. I think the emotions of that challenge really messed with the rest of the game.
you are not a fan of that happening in that challenge.
No, I was not a fan of that happening at all. I think I made that clear.
Yeah. I
I think that I personally, to me, if you lose, you lose. But losing in that way, I think, was what really set Maria off differently than just getting voted out.
the thing that confuses me with that though is she goes on to vote for the person that beat her in that challenge. Like I
Yeah,
would think if you're salty about that challenge, you wouldn't vote for the person that beat you.
yeah. There was a lot of.
Yeah.
That was a fun cast at the end. So many great characters. Whatever you think about how it all played out.
Yeah, and for the people that want Survivor to be MTV and root for drama all the time, they got it on Twitter after the season.
Yet so far, none of them have done the challenge because it's not really the right demographic.
Venus is challenge material, I feel.
Yes, absolutely.
Because she just says whatever comes to her mind, it seems like. And
Can you imagine a situation where Venus and another Survivor player who's debuting on the challenge soon are on the same season together?
I thought about that. The thing I was thinking of was an argument with Venus and a certain challenger that you and I don't like that just says whatever comes to her mind and exists to cause drama and arguments.
Yeah.
With like Venus and Amanda Garcia arguing is never going to end. Neither one of them are
No,
going to let the other person have the last word.
that's for sure.
Fantastic television.
Yeah.
I still say if they do another House of Villains, Amanda would be good for that show, but that's the only time I want to see her.
Absolutely, I'd agree with you there.
She'd be good TV in the Trader's Castle, but I can't handle a whole season of that.
Eh, she'd be okay.
Can you imagine her in this last group of traders?
Yeah, that would be good.
Her with Danielle and Rob.
Oh, God.
Moving into the show we actually podcast about, though.
But if you want to hear more about the challenge, tune into New Generation Challenge podcast once season 41's cast is announced publicly.
Yes, and if you want to hear other traders content, Roundtable Talk will be coming back some point in the next century. So
I'm going on a cruise to Alaska in 3 weeks, and we'll probably bring it back when I come home.
wait, you like traveling?
Surprise.
I did not know that. You're always going globetrotting. Who knew he likes to travel?
And I've got another fun trip coming up that I'm going to be making a guest appearance on Travel Council Chat from at the end of the year. Look out for that one.
There you go. And so, player of the episode, who you got?
Player of the episode for me, like you say, I've got to give it to Eva at this point just to be able to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
And be totally unharmed. How could you not?
I love her. She's my favorite person on the season left. I've made that very clear. I'm going to go with Joe here because he won immunity when he needed it to. He's been fantastic. And so, and one of the people that wanted him out went home. So, he set himself up well. And so, diving into the episode, we see this kind of weird scene with Eva and Mary talking on the beach, and Eva's telling Mary, I like you, I want to work with you. I wrote your name down, and I won't play the idol on you, but I didn't want to write your name down, and I do like you. I really don't know what to make of that scene. It was interesting.
Yeah.
My note just go. There it is. And so the next scene we have is Star talking about the revolution she's starting and flipping the game on the bigger people, which I made note of.
Yeah, which is exactly what if you style you need to do here.
Yeah. And at this point, I was curious to see if it might work or not. And then the next scene, we get our like trademark 48 random like group talking about non-game stuff on the beach. As we see,
This is so frequent in this season.
I know we had the last week, either last week or the week before, we were talking about we had this scene, but the conversation was what's the biggest animal you could beat up, and someone was like talking about sneaking up on a gorilla. And I don't know if this is happening in Canada, but like online on Facebook and Twitter since then, completely unrelated, it has become a debate online. Could 100 men beat a gorilla in a fight?
That's
It's become
definitely
like a
not
thing.
happening in Canada. Canadians are still just fighting about politics online.
Oh, gross. I don't miss that. I mean, America is just always fighting about politics, but I ignore that part of the internet when I can.
We had elections on Monday,
Oh,
so
yeah. 6, 5, 6, 7 months ago, it was unavoidable, and I
yeah.
hated it. But our random morning on the beach scene this time is Mitch telling a funny story, and we get a confessional of Shaheen talking about how Mitch is funny and likable, and how this makes him a target, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I don't know how much of a target it makes him, but I don't blame Shaheen for trying to do that because at this point you're so close to the end of the game that anything you can do to drop your opponent down a rung on the ladder is getting you closer to the top.
Yeah. And so
I said,
after
I
that,
personally think that I don't think Mitch is going to get to the end. If Mitch does, I think he's in a spot that he's probably a 0 vote finalist. But if you're playing, you can't assume that. We're not playing, we're watching.
yeah,
And we've seen so many people in this game, Natalie White, Michelle, just those are probably the two most known, like, win the game for great reasons according to the players, but to the surprise of the audience.
yeah.
Danny in Guatemala, Amber.
I love that we did an episode about Guatemala, by the way, and that question has been a question we ask guests on like 4 or 5 different guest appearances on our show. That
Yeah.
has kind of become one of our icebreakers at this point.
Well, if we have more guests on who weren't involved in the show, we'll have to ask them that too.
Oh, yeah. It's just kind of a running thing with our show now for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But our next,
We never asked them, but maybe we need to ask your mom and my dad that question at the next fantasy draft.
yeah, I did ask Kevin one time, and I believe
Yeah,
he said Stephanie.
he did.
He still hasn't lost anyone in the draft, by the way.
Is Kevin reading spoiler pages?
I doubt it, but like when we
I
talk
doubt it
about the
too.
draft,
I'm only saying that because I know Kevin is going to DM me once he hears me say that.
I'm bringing up the draft partly because of this, because he will text us each week and be like, "You two are rooting against me in the draft." And I just want to make that clear to the audience. Yes, I am absolutely rooting against one of my closest friends. He's won the draft enough.
Yeah.
Give someone else a turn.
But hey, once we get to 50, maybe we'll have a shot when everybody knows the players equally.
Like, the guy's a Bears fan. He's not used to winning very much, and now he doesn't want to stop and give us our turn. So it is what it is.
Well, I don't need to win the draft. I'm a Liverpool FC fan. We just won title number 20 this week.
Nice. So is like the Premier League like you win the regular season? Is it like American sports where like there's a regular season and a playoffs, or is it just like
No,
you're the best team during the season?
the best team in the season is the best team.
You should have a playoffs.
No.
That would
The
go
reason
so hard.
the reason that there's no playoffs in European sports is because since the travel times are closer, everybody plays everybody home and away. That's your season.
True. Isn't the like Champions League kind of like the playoffs of all the soccer
Yeah,
leagues
exactly.
combined?
Of all the top leagues in the world together.
I follow the MLS very loosely, and that's my soccer fandom.
Nice. Well, you guys have a good club.
Oh, yeah. They were St. Louis was really good their first year, and then they were bad last year in their second year, and they seem to be very up and down this year from the scores I've seen.
Yeah. Anyway, again, back to the show we're here to podcast on.
I forgot about that. Not really. So the next scene after Mitch's story and Shaheen talking about how likable Mitch is Joe and Shaheen are pitching Mitch about going to six with the strong four. So
Yeah.
their thought is they want a final six of Joe, Shaheen, Eva, Kyle, Camilla, Mitch.
So here's the thing: if I'm Mitch in this spot, and I want to know what you would do. But if I'll tell you my thought, if I'm Mitch in this spot, I'm good with this deal. If and only if I can negotiate a sub alliance at the same time. But
Yeah.
with if it's Joe and Shaheen telling you that they want you to be in the six, then I'm telling Joe and Shaheen, fine, but it's you two, me, and Eva in the final four.
See, my thought was if you're Mitch, form a sub alliance with Kyle and Camilla, who aren't nearly on board with the as much on the alliance as Joe, Shaheen, and Eva are.
True. That's a good point.
And then if you get to five, see, then you have 3 out of 6 though. But if you can get it to five and Mitch, Kyle, Camilla are still there, they run the vote at that point.
That's right.
But again, even if that's the final
but
three,
no matter what, if
win.
you get anything you can do to get to four in the new era is basically getting as far to the end as you can because you'll get a shot at five.
Yeah. Is there a version of a final three where Mitch wins?
I don't think so.
Is
but
he,
I may be wrong.
Is he teeny but more likable?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think he's done a little bit more than teeny, but because like this at the end of last season, we said the way to win is sit next to Teeny and Sue at the end.
Yep.
So I hate saying this. He's a great guy and he's really likable television, but I feel like that's kind of Mitch right now.
Yeah.
And he has time to turn that around. But
yes. But it would have to start in the next two travels, probably.
And he would have to not be scared to take a risk.
That's it.
And there's nothing wrong with this. He's just been playing a very safe game so far. And when you're outside of the numbers, that doesn't really help your resume any.
Exactly.
And so next up, we see Star, Mary, and Camilla are planning their. See, Camilla also, both sides are counting Camilla as one of their numbers. That's interesting. But this revolution is Star and Mary are talking about they have Camilla and that they need Mitch for their numbers. And we see Star pitching him to be a part of this revolution. And at this point in watching the episode is where I'm starting to think like, man, could this actually happen?
Yeah. It could have if depending on how the votes go.
Yeah. And so Kyle and Camilla are going they meet up. They're going back and forth between alliances and where they want to go, and both sides want them. And they're in the power spot here.
They Kyle and Camilla seem to be that duo in the season that I think does have the most options and can really do what they want to do. And if they play this game well, this is the duo that I think the winner is going to come from.
It's like since Thomas went home, I've been predicting Camilla would win, even though Eva's my favorite. So I'm
Yeah.
absolutely taking credit if she wins. But oh, I forgot what I was saying. I
Well,
started
you should
cracking.
take credit because you got her in the draft
Yeah.
in the third round. So
No, here's what I was gonna say.
win
Is
or
Kyle
lose,
and
that's pick in
Camilla
the
are kind
draft.
of reminding me of like that 3 episode run in San Juan del Sur where John and Jacqueline
Yep.
were in the middle of the numbers and could swing either way for like 2 or 3 episodes in a row.
That's right.
And so moving forward, we have a reward challenge this week.
We do.
And so the reward is that we're going to be taken by boat to another island for a Fijian picnic with
Fijian chicken and waffles.
fried chicken and waffles, fried chicken and waffles, fried chicken and waffles. Probst asked them to say it, and if you didn't watch, they all started chanting it like that: fried chicken and waffles, fried chicken and waffles. And like, I don't remember what he said, but Shaheen breaks in and starts like singing at one point.
Yeah.
Star was hyping up Shaheen, like, yeah, yeah, it was fantastic.
From
Online
Shaheen
hated it.
singing.
I was shocked by the reaction. I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing at it. And
Oh
everyone
yeah, I thought it was
online
funny
seems to
too.
hate it.
From Shaheen singing for another episode of in a row to Star giving us a rap performance at the end. This is the musical season.
Star's rap was fantastic. Like, that was actually good.
Yeah.
I was laughing my head off at the fried chicken and waffles. And, like, I've come at Survivor Twitter kind of hard the last. This wasn't a Twitter exclusive. This was Twitter, Facebook, Chat BCC. Those people seem to not. I think I'm the only one that was so entertained and liked the fried chicken and waffles.
Well, I found it funny.
I had that chant in my head for a solid 5 minutes, though. And so the way the actual challenge works for the fried chicken and waffles is that you wiggle through sand, your hands are cuffed, and you're dragging this buoy along a rope. And once you get across the sand, you take your handcuffs off and you maneuver the buoy through the rope maze. And then you untie a bunch of knots that release these rings. And when the rings are untied, you have to land them on these pegs.
Speaking of my other show that we mentioned earlier, they have done this on the challenge.
Yeah.
With Johnny Bananas tied up, just pushing his way through the sand.
Nice.
So that was fun.
That is fantastic. And so Kyle ends up winning reward, and he takes Eva, Camilla, and Shaheen with him. What do you think of these choices?
It's a good choice, I think. I think it's smart in a way to have some of like, especially if you're in Kyle's spot, both sides represented. You can really work to like solidify your relationships with these choices, and it also leaves a player like Joe at camp to make sure that you find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
What about you?
I thought it was smart, and I think he also mentioned at some point that he wanted the people back at camp, I think Mary and Star, someone to be annoyed and like want to go at the majority because Kyle took the majority with them. Something along those lines. But
yeah,
Kyle wants Mitch, Star, and Mary as ticked off as possible, is what I wrote down, because he wants them to want to like motivate them to go at the majority group. So also at the reward, I don't have a ton of notes from the reward, but Shaheen threw whipped cream at Eva. which was funny.
I totally missed that. That's funny.
And so back at camp, we get this kind of weird scene of Mary and Joe talking over the David vote. And I love Joe. He's fantastic. This is one of the worst jury management moments I've seen this season. Because, like, Mary is saying she gets why David went home. And, like, if he's causing paranoia and chaos, I get why people want to send him home. And Joe's response is basically saying, hey, David went home because of you and your influence on him, and everyone thinks you were in his head.
Yeah.
Not like, I don't know how that benefits him.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I feel like that's probably poor jury management. That could come back to bite him if he's at the end and she's on the jury.
I would agree with you right there. This season, and that's kind of where I'm aligned with you on that. I think Camilla is going to win the game, and that's that Camilla's jury management. I bring this up every week. Seems to be strong, but more so than that, it's not a season with that great jury management.
And it's not.
No, it seems to be like a lot of players are just fumbling what should be basic social game.
And if you want a lesson on the importance of jury management, go watch season 8 and season 20. Both of those are seasons that I would have given my jury vote to the second place finisher. And
Bruce, just so we can make
the winner won because the other finalist managed the jury better, worse than them.
You're right in both. But just so we can make it very clear, do you want to tell the audience what season 8 is so we officially make a reference to it on Tribal Council chat this week?
You know what? I wasn't even doing it on purpose. That's All Stars. I'll put $1 in the fake All Stars. We haven't been doing that as much lately.
No, we haven't.
We've been better.
It was a thing for like the first year of the show.
Yeah. It was probably a thing in like first year and a half, probably. Yeah. And then I just regressed us. So we'll see. But my last note before the immunity challenge, I wasn't taking as many notes as normal. Mary asked Mitch if he's willing to go to Rocks this vote and says that her and Star both are.
Yeah, and at this point in the game, you have to be. And I think that's where we're not getting a great edit from Mitch's game.
And that's one of the
things. If you have two people telling you that they're ready to go to Rocks, don't say, no, I'm not willing to go to Rocks, because then guess what? They're going to assume that you're going to jump against them and they'll vote you out. So why not vote you out?
Yeah. And this is, like, I get it. Rocks are scary. You could go home without receiving a vote. But This is where the accusations, this supports the thought of Mitch is playing a safe/scared game.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving into the immunity challenge, the tribe completely turns down the rice negotiation.
This was interesting.
Which it's not a negotiation, because either last season or the season before, a tribe threw out a different number at Probst, and Probst said, no, this is a hard number. That's not negotiating. That's just offering to sell them something.
I mean, in America these days, the definition of negotiating changes every 5 minutes. So,
well, yes, but you think of negotiating and you think of like numbers going back and forth. If it's just a hard set number, that's just selling something.
When it comes to negotiating, Jeff is just learning from his former CBS reality show co-host.
Yeah. But I did the Shaheen's line made me chuckle of, you throw twists at us and we're throwing a twist back at you. We're not interested.
Yeah. That was interesting though. I think it's at this point of the game. I mean, I would say a few things. I think one, production kind of fumbled this at this point. You're doing the rice negotiation with 8 people left in the game when you're at this point so close to the end. Like they should maybe do that with 11 people left or so. That way you have rice all the way to the end, one, from like a halfway point of the game, pretty much. And you're having the opportunity for like, if there's 11 people there, 5 or 6 of them might say, sure, I'm good. But at this point, you're one, only what, 5, 6 days away from final tribal council, probably.
Yeah, well, starting with 18 people, like 9 would be halfway.
But 9 wouldn't even be halfway. It would be more because there was 3 sitting at the end.
Well, I was in.
And another one goes home the night before, and another one goes home 2 nights before.
Stop making me do math. It took me long enough to figure out, think of 9 being half of 18.
Yeah. But I guess my overall point is, why does anybody need rice at this point of the game? You're about, no matter what happens, whether you get voted out tonight or you win the game, you're going to be having a filet mignon and lobster tail at Ponderosa this week.
I feel like that's a lot easier to say when we're not the ones out there for 20 plus days starving. You
Catch a
might not
fish.
be saying that if you were out there.
I think if I was at a final, and a 1 in 7 shot of immunity gives you a 1 in 7 shot of $1 million, yes, that's exactly what I'd be saying if I was out there.
But my thought of this has always been if it's a challenge I don't feel like I'd be good at, or if I know I'll be out anyway, I'll volunteer and look like I'm being helpful for the tribe when in reality I'm not winning anyway. Try to make myself look good with everyone else.
Fair. I guess the counterpoint to that is if you instantly volunteer, are you trying to make yourself look too good in front of the tribe and look like you're in a completely safe position?
That's why you don't do it instantly. That's why you're like, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll do it. I'll like you.
I get the sense with this group that there was just no interest at all, and it didn't matter if the number was 5 or the number was 1, nobody was doing it.
Yeah, but no, depending
Especially
on
when
the
you have
challenge, I would sit out.
especially when you have a group that's dominated by this core alliance that wants the strong players to win. That this almost defines the season so far.
Yeah,
In that they're saying, no, we're here to play.
I want to be at one of those challenges where it's a challenge I know I'd suck at, but instead of a rice negotiation, Probe says, "Oh, whoever doesn't want to compete can sacrifice their chance at immunity for this giant plate of food."
Yeah, that I could see because you're right away getting something yourself.
Yeah.
There's a direct trade off for you personally, and there could be a huge advantage coming up. And who knows, maybe there's something in that plate of food that could keep you safe.
I honestly just want the nachos on the plate. I love nachos, and that's
I
usually
love
what it
nachos
is.
too. I mean, now I really want to go upstairs and make nachos when we're done recording.
I made nachos for dinner earlier tonight before the hockey game.
Nice.
I do that a lot. I love nachos.
For dinner, I had Chinese tonight.
Funny story about nachos. When I go to Cardinals games at Busch Stadium, I get this giant order of nachos that comes in a plastic baseball helmet. And so because of that, I have at least 15 or 20 of these plastic baseball helmets that I don't do anything with because I bring them home with me.
I have really got to get to a game though at some point soon.
Get the helmet nachos. They're very good.
I will let you know whenever I make it.
Yeah. You still got to come down for a hockey game
Oh, I do.
when it's not 2 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
So the immunity is challenge is the one where we're carrying one block at a time while holding the super unstable wobbly table by a rope, and we're building the word immunity, stacking the blocks vertically. Our YouTube audience just got a great visual of me there. And it's really intense, it's really close, like this challenge always is. And
Challenge is
Joe is,
always close, but I get the sense from listening to past players who have done it that it takes a lot longer than we see.
well, yeah, I figure,
Like hours longer.
I kind of assumed that, honestly.
So,
But we see like Joe's about to win. He's slowly walking back. They're playing this suspenseful music. And all of a sudden, we get this close up of this fly that's flying around right in front of Joe's face.
that was funny.
The editing this week is just fantastic.
I thought it was good too. My dad thought that the fly was just edited right into the shot.
No, that was real.
That's what I thought. There, I'm just looking at my notes too. They're on day 19, so if it ends on day 26, it's over a week from now.
But they still have to eliminate a
A
lot of
lot of people. Well, they have to vote out 3 people.
so a lot. Cool.
Yeah. And then they have to do a fire making challenge to get rid of another one.
They have to vote out several people. The actual definition, not the one that like it means 7. But
Well, I was just thinking after this tribal council, Kevin can say from one of his favorite players of the new era that there's several people left.
yeah, and we're gonna get a text about it now that you said that. And so Joe wins immunity.
We're gonna get a text about it.
Mitch tells Shaheen that Star is after him. And Mitch, this is where I have Mitch tells us in a confessional he doesn't want to play a scared game. And my note under that is, but he is.
That was exactly what I said too.
And so, and the very next quote we see from him is, you can't make moves with people you don't trust. And I don't trust Mary or Star.
And he's right to an extent. But, and this is a big but, you also can't make moves with people you don't trust, but if you don't trust if you never make moves, you're never going to develop any trust with anyone.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
And so Mary's pitch to Shaheen, because it seems like it's going to be Star versus Mary. Mary's pitch to Shaheen is keep me around and I'll work with you, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know how well it would work long term, but because they're just too divided at this point, but we'll see.
Shaheen did have a really smart note on this, though. Is he says that Mary not having her shot in the dark makes her less of a threat the next day than Star. Which I thought was
Mary
a really
not having her shot in the dark makes her a bigger threat. So yeah, I see that.
Makes her less of a threat, not a bigger. Because Star still having her, she could play that the next day and possibly be safe.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you said what I thought. I just said it wrong.
Yeah. And so at this point, we get like, and not even like chanting with Shaheen kind of rap singing. Star gives us like a full on rap song. My enemies are plotting, and then she did it that but better, but like full out. Star gives us a full rap song. It was incredible.
Yeah, that was incredible. I wondered how much she worked on that before walking to confessional. I mean, even if it was a long time, that would have been really entertaining.
Yeah. And so going into tribal, Jeff asks, "Are you playing from trust or paranoia?" And Star is once again hilarious and goes, "I don't get paranoid, Uncle JP. She called him Uncle JP like 5 times at Tribal, including when her torch got snuffed. I have not heard this nickname from her once this season until this episode.
Yeah, neither have I, but I guess maybe she was working on her rap song and had some new ideas pop in her head that just started coming out at Travel.
I think she might have rapped her farewell confessional too.
Yeah.
But Uncle JP made me laugh. Star says Mitch told me to play my shot in the dark, and he didn't. This made me laugh. She goes, I don't want to be mean or anything, but when he told me that, he didn't stutter.
Yeah, that was both. I'm glad Mitch took that well because that made it funny, but at first it was so awkward.
I I just made it. I don't know. I just chuckled, but and she says, but I don't follow that. I follow my own compass. And Kyle says, when I talk to Star, I feel like I'm talking to the Godfather. And Tribal kind of centers around her, and she ends up going home.
Yeah, that she does.
So,
Which was not unexpected that it ended up being her, but certainly at least you can say with Star, she went out playing a much stronger game than I gave her credit for at the beginning of the season, and did take some risks, and she overcame probably some of those preconceptions, at least that I mean, the first 2 words that I wrote down when I saw her video preseason was pre-merge.
Yeah.
And she was a very entertaining player.
She was fantastic. I love Star. And so, sad to see her go. She's fantastic, very fun, very enjoyable. I don't know what the Twitter account that their whole shtick is Star Updates is going to do now.
Is there one? I've never even heard of that.
There is. And on our way back from Chicago, Kevin was reading me a bunch of their tweets.
That
so
would
ask
be funny.
him about. I don't know what the username is, but there's a whole like Star to Me updates Twitter.
Oh, really? I'll have to take a look into that. That's funny.
But I'm sad to see her go. She was fun. We didn't get enough of her. I wish we had gotten more of her early on in the season.
Yeah.
And the audience has lost 1 or 2 now.
The audience has lost
2. They had Say
2.
also.
Yeah. But Mary, who is still going for them.
Freaking audience, you lost 2 people. I've only lost 1. But I flexed for those of you not watching on YouTube. But a line blindside first boot. Who you got?
A line blindside first boot. I am gonna go with representing Star going home. 3 players who represented the state of Georgia in across Survivor. So your options are from Survivor Africa, Teresa Cooper.
Yeah.
From Survivor Korong, Sydney Gillen. And from Survivor Edge of Extinction, Ron Clark.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to align with T-Bird for sure. No question. I love her. She's my favorite of this group. I think I'm going to blindside Sydney because I don't think she would be a bitter juror and hold that against me.
Yeah.
Not that Ron would, but also Sydney's really strong. So she's going to help me stay away from tribal pre-merge, and I'm going to first boot Ron.
Interesting. That's great picks. I am also going to blindside Sydney for the same reasons as you said. I don't think she'd be a bitter juror. She'd be a great ally pre-game. She's a huge threat to win, but really helps you in challenges. I am going to flip it, though. I'm going to first boot T-Boot at this point. Who doesn't want to see T-Boot win this game?
Yeah.
Nobody. I think T-Boot is one of the ultimate threats of a player that you go, if this player ever gets a chance to come back, easy win. She's one of the like 3-4 names that comes to mind right away, especially with all the drama that went down in Africa. And that leaves me to align with Ron, who I think would be very good socially, someone who's very good at building relationships, and would help get a bigger group together. But also, as we saw in Edge of Extinction, Ron liked to play as the villain. So that can be good to sit next to if you have a jury that maybe doesn't respect his game.
Yeah. And so, those are great picks. I, in honor of the strong people, am going to give you some strong people that do well in challenges.
Nice.
So you have the Redemption Island Challenge Immunity Beast in my mind, Laura Moret.
Yep.
You have, let's throw Wigglesworth in there from season 1.
Yep.
And let's go new era and throw my guy Jonathan Young in there.
Nice. I am going to align with Kelly Wigglesworth. Always one of my favorite OG players. Someone that I was cheering for when she came back 30 seasons later on Cambodia, and who almost won the game. Just lost out by, I mean, at least officially, pick a number through 1 and 10 to get from a question from Greg Buis, who that is just so classic Greg that it made the season, whether it was real or not.
And then she did that same thing her second season.
Yeah, that was when you've totally reminded me of that. But when Kelly did that her second season, I just got up and was clapping. I was like, this is in season 31, seeing what was so entertaining 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I am going to blindside Laura at this point. I think Laura is a very good player in the game who can help you move on, who's good with your alliance. I also think, especially with her being someone who has run for political office, that she would respect the game and respect the role of the jury more than maybe the other two. And that
You're
leaves
right.
me.
I forgot she's ran for office. What did she run for?
State representative in Oregon as a Republican.
Interesting.
And then that was in 2016. And then that leaves me to first boot Jonathan. Jonathan would be great in challenges. He would be great on your tribe, but gotta first boot someone.
Yeah. So,
what are you saying?
Normally, I'm like, okay, someone like Jonathan, I blindside because I don't want them go on an immunity run, but they'll help my tribe pre-merge to stay away from tribal. Keep the strong people around for the tribe pre-merge. I still subscribe to that. But that's kind of the case with all 3 of these. So I can't use that this time.
Yeah.
Kelly went to the end and almost won.
Yep.
So I'm not going to align with her as much as I probably want to. I think I'm going to align with Laura and blindside Jonathan and first boot Kelly, but I want to I want to sit at Final Four with these three. They all three seem awesome to hang out with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with that being said, check out Pit Stop Palace. Check out New Generation Challengers. Roundtable Talk's going to come back one of these millennia.
Did we say what
And
we're gonna do with Roundtable Talk when we bring it back, Bruce? Just as a sneak peek.
I don't. Did we decide what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was Bruce already talked about it. Likes traveling too much.
Whoa.
um. So I was out of the country for a bit when Traders One just kind of all aired at once, at least in Canada. I don't know if you guys saw it every week or what, but here it just showed up at once and everybody binged it 2 months after we already knew what happened.
Yeah.
So the three of us are going to go back and rewatch season one.
I remember this. There was something else
Yeah.
we had talked about that I asked if we had decided. I forgot we had said this, though.
Oh, we'll do some more stuff if there's anything we want to do, but we are going to take probably about a month and rewatch Traders 1 and talk about a few episodes a week.
Well, two of us will be rewatching. You'll just be watching.
Yeah, I'll just be watching. I do know what happens in the end of the show, but
Shh.
the audience already knows it came out 2 years ago or something.
The audience doesn't know that you already know. Keep the illusion going.
Okay.
Well, with that being said, everyone grab your torches and head back to camp. Bye, everyone.
Bye.